see white lies dancing between the lines. She's an atheist. Carousels in her mind, spinning all in her eyes. She's an atheist.
Hello and welcome to the Digital Freethought Radio Hour on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. We're recording this on Sunday morning, February 5th, I guess now, 2023. I'm Larry Rhodes, or DJ Daughter 5, and as usual, we have our co-host Wombat on the line with us. Hello, Wombat.
Hey, it's the Wombat. What's up?
Not a lot. Us at this early morning hour. With us today, we have Slewfoot. Welcome. And we have John Richards.
It's Lucifer, but
Lucifer. Oh, it's Lucifer. Okay, yeah. Hard to read that on there. Digital Freethought is a talk radio show about atheism, free thought, rational thought, humanism, and the sciences. And conversely, we'll also talk about religion, religious faiths, gods, holy books, and superstition. And if you get the feeling that you're the only non-believer in your town, well, you're just not. Here in Knoxville, in the middle of the Bible Belt in the south of USA, we have a group of over 1,000 of us. We're the Atheist Society of Knoxville, or ASK, and we'll tell you more about that after the mid-show break, so be sure to stick around. Wombat, what's our topic today?
Chat GPT, the AI of all times, have finally stumped the atheists, and we will replay that in the
I beg to disagree.
Hey, we haven't even asked the questions yet. That's what the show is going to be for, but we can place our bets now. So Christians get very excited because it's going to be an interesting show.
Good thing you guys got a Satanist here to bail you out.
I was going to say that because in the introduction, Larry read through a whole list of things, but he missed out Satanism. I think that should be added.
Yeah, we should put Satan in there.
Yeah, we can put that in there too. You're in good company. Speaking of which, though, since Dread Pirate's out and we can't do a noodly invocation, we're going to go straight into my second favorite thing, which is just catching up on everybody in 30 seconds or less. Go on, Lucifer. Go.
All right, I've got a new podcast host. We've been working on new material right now. It's The Skeptical Satanist. We're on YouTube currently. Hopefully we'll be spreading out from there after we get our content and our shit together.
Nice. You know what's great is the thing about a podcast is it's like almost a time capsule / diary. And I think it's a good way, particularly, and I'm going to say this in a weird way, but I don't think men get enough opportunities to just talk about things that are on their mind in a welcoming environment. And I find it to be a very therapeutic experiment to just find friends that you like to talk with and engage with, even if it's virtually, where you just have a free space to openly speak. I feel like a lot of times we don't have rooms to share kinds of thoughts like that. My 2 cents.
A lot of disconnect in society in general, it seems.
Absolutely. Takes you a little bit out of an echo chamber and at least lets you engage with people. And it's always valuable to be able to communicate rather than just the voices in your head regurgitating with each other. Yeah. I'm really happy about that. Where can we find the podcast?
I can share that link with you.
Sure. Pull it up to us at the end of the show. I want to hear the plugs for it. Sound good?
Yep.
Sweet.
Sounds good.
Doubter 5, your quest for living the life of every 13-year-old's dream. Motorcycles, video games, and space astronauts. What else have you been up to?
No, I've been working. I still work a 40-hour week. So I was retired for about a year and a half, and then this job came along and it sounded interesting, so I took it. But yeah, I mainly play Star Citizen now, which is a space game. They're very interesting. It's kind of buggy because it's an alpha release.
Sure.
But boy, what a game. It's really something.
Listen, let me ask you.
Go ahead.
I'll ask you this: is there any AIs in the game right now?
Well, there are a lot of bots. Bots are AIs. They're rudimentary. You don't actually converse with them. You exchange bullets with them sometimes. That's about it.
Okay. Well, pay attention to the show. There's cool stuff coming up ahead.
Cool.
John Richards would love to hear about you and your quest for chaos overseas.
Well, I want to correct another error of omission that's happened already in this show, because you introduced Larry as pursuing every 13-year-old's dream, which consisted of online games and something else I forget. But it's a long time since I was 13. But
Yours was whittling, wasn't it?
I don't think that's a comprehensive list.
Fair enough. I'm probably out of date myself. I probably dated myself. It's like, I want to be on a Fortnite esports team, Dad. It's like, oh, okay, that's what kids are into.
Well, when I was 13, it was fishing. I was crazy about fishing. I don't do that much anymore.
Nah, for me, when I was 12, I knew it was riding bicycles, and that was it, because there wasn't really an internet presence back then. So,
sure.
It was about being outside and having fun with friends.
Mine was spreading the love of Jesus everywhere I went.
Oh, poor kid.
That's a good point. That most believers don't realize that atheists came from.
Wish religion. I was joking.
But no, and that's why we know religion so well.
Oh,
I can't believe what I'm hearing. Didn't any of you Americans discover girls?
Now, for that, you're talking to the round crowd. John Richards, what's going on with you, my friend?
Well, I'm still plugging away with Freethought channel, and I'm happy to report that it's gaining subscribers at the rate of almost 2 a day.
Whoa, that's double than last time.
Yes, it's coming along very well. And we had a great chat yesterday with an ex-evangelical South African. It's well worth watching. He's got a journey. He's been on a journey, and he wants to tell us about it. And we spend an hour listening to him describing all the trials and tribulations that he's undergone. And luckily, he's not being shunned very much. But anyway, I don't want to give away too many secrets of the story. Freethought channel. That was Freethought Hour.
Very cool. Very cool. And you got another show coming up, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah, and I hope you're going to join me in it, Ty, and I'm hoping that Dred will too. I see he's not here with us today, which is worrying because our numbers are down. You know, we have a panel show,
sure,
Views on the News, and sadly, one of our regular stalwart panelists died the week before last. So we've lost him, Frank Lavelle, who was a lovely fellow. Honestly, he came across on camera as a really adorable fellow. Anyway, we've lost him, and we've got another member of our regular panelist who's been invaded by relatives, and a third one who is on vacation. So he's not going to be contactable. We normally have at least 4 people. I'm hoping you're going to be able to join us, Ty.
I'm down.
Great.
Nice. Very, very cool. Yeah, absolutely.
Fesser will be there too.
Oh, okay. Awesome. Okay. It'll be a fun crowd. And then hopefully we'll be able to have Dred in. And maybe if you're short on panelists, you could download one. Have you ever thought about that, John Richards? Because we live in a world now where if you have people that you want to talk to, all you need is an internet connection, and not people, but AI that can happily have, in my opinion, some pretty really enlightening conversations with you in a polite and faster fashion than it would be with a human being, where you have to wait for them to type, where you don't have to see response.
Are they as good at segue as you?
Oh, yeah. Well, we could find out. I can ask ChatGPT, who's the AI that we're asking for, is come up with 40 segues. Here's topic A, here's topic B connected to. Let's see if they can do that. Anyway, that's the topic for today's show. I want to see if an AI can ask questions that would stump atheists, including our resident Satanist who's on the show right now, Lucifer. I reached out to ChatGPT, who's like this new AI that's all the rave on the internet, produced by OpenAI, and they have basically made a model for questions and answers of any sort. No text limits. Feel free to use it as long as you want. And all they're doing is just gathering data to feed into a neural network that allows their model to be even more smart and more capable of answering questions in a polite fashion. There are some limitations on what it can answer. So, for example, certain languages aren't available, and it will make it clear that you can't upload pictures. It's solely text in, text out. And you can also ask questions about the nature of the process, but due to their regulations, they can't explain how many servers are available or how many elective requests there are, and they will try to keep other questions asked by other users private as well. But they do recommend that you don't give any of your personal information as well. They do require your phone number to make an account, which I don't necessarily like, but I got phone numbers to burn, so it's all good. Either way, I logged in and I asked it, please generate 5 detailed questions that would stump an atheist. And I'd love to go over those answers or those questions with you and see if we can actually get some stumps. I'm going to go out with the first one. And as a disclaimer, when I asked this question, please give me 5 detailed questions that would stump an atheist, the model itself, ChatGPT, said, hey, listen, as an AI language model, I do not have personal opinions or beliefs, but I can provide you with 5 philosophical questions that some people might find challenging to answer. And in my head, that's like, okay, you're an atheist too. Congratulations.
Well, I won't go that far.
You wouldn't go that far? He doesn't believe in a God, or it doesn't believe in a God.
I've seen the questions, and it seems to me that they're asking the questions from a believer's point of view, like particularly the first one.
So
anyway, let's go on into them.
All right. These are philosophical questions that were proposed most likely by believers in a philosophical sense, but it is reiterating that with a really nice disclaimer. Anyway, here's the first one. Larry, you're on the chopping block today. First question: how can the universe exist without a creator?
Let's see. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Usually, that's a question you get from believers or theists,
right?
And the thing about it is, the way they frame it is, the creator would mean like a human, or something with a mental ability to discern will, agency. But a creator could be another universe, could be a virtual particle, could be anything. But they don't refer to virtual particles and other universes that way, or even nature as creator. So that's why I think it has a theist bent. Yeah,
so there's a little bend to it, and I agree. When I Googled questions that would stump atheists, almost all the questions that I got from priests were front-loaded in that capacity. They were they were just begging the question of a God or a belief. So it is a little weird, but I would say for someone that asked me, how can a universe exist without a creator? It would require a better fundamental question of, well, how do we recognize a creation? Are we saying everything's a creation? These would be really good questions to figure out before we get into the concept of answering a question that's begging an answer already. Because if we agree that everything's a creation, then we don't have grounds to recognize what things that aren't a creation are. So we don't have a frame of reference. And if we're saying things can't exist without it being created, then there's no way to plead that the universe is also creation, because certain things can exist without it being necessarily created as well. So then the question would just be how do we determine this universe as a creation? And if we don't have grounds to determine that, then the better answer is we don't know if it's creation or not. But honestly, we could also just say it doesn't meet the criteria of something that would be designed, because we have some hallmarks or rules for design. It doesn't seem like that's the case with what we know about design so far.
Right.
John Richards, what do you think?
Well, who created the Grand Canyon?
Well, there you go. That was my point I was going to make, is usually when theists pose this question, they started off with who.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And just what John Richards did. And that's a giveaway that they're trying to load the question in the direction of their answer, their preferred answer.
Right.
Exactly.
And is it really a philosophical question that front loads an answer?
Or honest? Is it really an honest question?
And it can be used dishonestly. Absolutely. I agree. So the questions you ask are important, though. I would love to see what Lucifer thinks on the subject. What do you think about the question of how did the universe get created without a creator? Is that
my question would be why? Well, I would ask a question back, I guess. Why would there have to be a creator? Right. Why wouldn't the question just be, how can the universe exist?
Right.
Or where did it come from? That would be a simple question.
Yeah.
Honest, open.
Likewise, one of these questions, typically what they do is when presented to an atheist, they are meant to make the atheist seem afraid to just respond with "I don't know," so that they can fill in the gap with their own belief. But truly, the right answer here could just be straight up "I don't know," or appears to be natural consequences or natural forces. Well, who created natural forces? I don't know.
Again, they're
if you're
using
proposing,
who.
if you are proposing that you know who it is, now you have the burden of evidence, because I can easily demonstrate that I don't know how the universe was created without a creator, but you are supplementing that with your own answer, and that's part where you have to come up with evidence.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There's also something with that where it's like this idea that you're going to base things you're going to base a claim off of things that we don't know rather than the things that we do know, which just seems so backward to begin with.
Well, it's argument from ignorance. It's a logical
like
fallacy.
you could make up anything at that point and say that, well, we don't know. So
and the sad truth of it is, I don't know is actually the right answer when you don't know something.
Right.
And we, as a society, get shunned from that correct answer. We're forced to raise our hand and come up with an answer. We're forced to mark a random multiple choice question if we don't know, just for the chance of being right. We are forced to respond to seem authoritative, to seem confident, to seem likable. But a lot of people don't like uncertainty. We don't like, and that's one of the reasons why religion is so popular. But uncertainty is a valid answer when you don't have defined variables. And as you learn more about the scientific method, you begin to appreciate things like undefined or undetermined or to be determined, because that's your area of where you can place focus on in the future. That's where we can continue to move towards.
Right. That's where discoveries come from.
Exactly.
When you say, I don't know.
Yeah.
Find out.
The trouble is, religious people think that I don't know is a weak position.
Right.
It's not. It's just honest.
It's an honest position. Exactly. Right. Exactly. So we got to know that difference. And we got to continue to be champions and cheerleaders of I don't know, when that is in fact the best answer, because it's not a destination, it's the indication that you can move towards the truth. And
well, if you go back 200 years, there was a heck of a lot more we didn't know.
I think you're also going to kind of embarrass theists in that way, because they've been given a book that they say has all of this knowledge, and this is everything that we know.
Correct.
And this is the truth and everything. And then you're saying something that's outside of that. And it's either they aren't informed, of this thing, or their book was wrong.
Right. There's nothing more uncomfortable than realizing that when you thought you knew something, you actually don't know something. That's an acquired taste. But in my head, that's the indication of learning. Because what is learning aside from putting aside your own biases or your own gaps in knowledge with new knowledge? Right. And if you have an ego that's getting in the way of that, it's not in your best interest to maintain it. Get rid of that and continue to keep learning, keep stretching yourself, because that's what religion is stopping you from doing, reaching your best self.
In fact, scientists quite like being wrong, because that's the only thing that they can be certain about.
Right.
You can't be certain about being right, because tomorrow you might meet some sort of observation that is inconsistent with your model. Right. But you can be certain about being wrong.
Right. And so along with the idea that we should ask honest questions, I just want to give like a quick identification that when we use science as a way to resolve mysteries or unknowns, that is not a conclusive answer. It is a process. Science is a process that is good only in the fact that it's self-correcting, which means that it's always constantly questioning itself, questioning its methods, and trying to improve upon itself to get to a more correct answer the next day or the next hour, the next minute. And anyone can be a part of that if they are willing to ask meaningful and honest questions, which is why we talk about the first question and how it's framed and whether or not it's honest, because that's how you get good answers, by asking good questions. All right, that's our scientific, that would be our answer to number one. Sorry, ChatGPT. Okay. No one stumped yet. All right, cool, fair enough. Here's the next question. John Richards, you're on the hot seat today. Are you ready? If everything in the universe is determined by natural laws, how can human beings have free will?
Well, again, we don't know. Get used to it. Suck it up. We don't know. We're working on it. One day we might find out.
And many prominent people say that we don't have free will.
Yes, indeed, they do.
What I would ask is, if this God knows everything, everything, he knows what you're going to do every step of the future that you have, and there's no free will because you can't change what you do.
Yeah.
but he would know what he's going to do for the rest of eternity.
Yeah.
Right.
Technically,
if he knows everything, then he has no free will.
It's inconsistent between omnipotence and omniscience.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to bring up, I think it's kind of funny that, isn't it the devil that created free will to begin with, according to their stories?
Oh my gosh. Well, then if your answer was, well, the devil made it, I wonder how many Christians would satisfy. That would satisfy. I'm wondering, what do people mean when they say free will? Because we can understand, even in this podcast, we might have different definitions for the word belief. And so I have a definition of free will that is abiding by the natural laws of the universe. It is based on brain synapses and our chemistry and the things that we do in the past. It's not truly random, but it's good enough to where I can make a distinction between choosing to leave a restaurant and being dragged out of a restaurant by a waiter. One is a violation of my free will, the other one isn't. That's how I'm defining it in my head. And so other people may have different ways of describing it. And that's just a question of, what do you mean by free will? And then maybe we can have the conversation afterwards. But for me, a universe that's governed by natural laws is consistent with my experience of free will based on how I'm defining free will. So I don't necessarily have a problem with that, and I'd be happy to answer any more biochemical terms that are related to that.
I've got a situation where I think there is no free will. It's when you're trying to discuss with your wife where you're going to go for dinner. You have the illusion of free will.
I personally don't think that you can prove that free will is a thing. Like what? I mean, your environment could control a lot of what you might consider free will or whatever. There's a lot of restraints on that, I think.
Sure.
I don't think that there's really any evidence of that. So
sure. And I understand the idea of like free will being more of like a random, truly inspirational, transcendent thing that like inspires a body here in this meat space. I don't believe in that kind of free will. Like my free will is very like cut and dry, bolts and nuts. And same thing with my personality. Like my personality is informed by the people I've met, the places that I've been to, the food that I eat, the places that I go, all that stuff. So like my personality, who I am, my identity, everything is all part of my day-to-day experiences or my legacy, including what I choose to do and what I choose not to do. And so I wrap that all into things that are based on the natural law, because that's what I'm most impacted by. Because as far as I'm aware, I'm not impacted by supernatural or transcendentalism or anything like that, or spiritualism. I have this world that I'm constantly fighting against its forces to stay alive. And that's what's going to shape me as well as what I choose to do. And I'm fine with that, because in my head, the natural world is far more entertaining and complex than anything I could make up that's fictional or what appears to be fictional. Like as more as we understand how the actual natural world is, the more I'm realizing how beautiful and inherently complex and just mind-baffling levels of like, why is this planet so small and the universe so big? What else is going on in here? This is crazy. And I'm not going to live long enough to see all of it, but I still get to see a little slice of it and hopefully move our understanding a little bit, not even like enough to move the dial, but to help push that dial a little bit forward. That's so amazing to be a part of this time. That's what I'm saying. So like, it's a great time to be here.
This is a rabbit hole. We could spend the whole show talking about whether libertarian free will is true or not.
Sure. How about we do one more and then we can get into our break. This one's for Slucifer. Slucifer, if there is no afterlife, what is the meaning of life?
The here life. So yeah, I think all of these questions are pretty loaded. But what I'd actually wrote something down while I was looking at that, and I'd put the environment you're born into determines, it could determine your meaning or the possibilities for you to have some meaning in life. And from there, it's your choice then.
Okay. Doubter 5, what do you think?
Yeah, I back him up. It's whatever you want it to be. You can make your purpose anything and make it personal, make it family, make it business, anything you want.
Sure. It's a question of whose meaning. Again, the who comes in. They want an agent to have imposed meaning on its nonsense.
Right.
Correct.
We make our own meaning.
And as I was alluding to earlier, I was saying like the idea that we are in basically a playground of physics that have been largely undiscovered, chemical reactions that have been undetermined, matters of phenomena that's observable that we've only seen a very small slice of. This is a very exciting time to have meaningful questions that you can throw out at the universe and get reliable, unbelievably world-changing answers as a result. So like when we're figuring out stuff like this, when we're playing around with AIs, when we're like coming up with new machines, all this stuff is very exciting to be a part of. And I find a lot of meaning through that, just contributing towards that effort and educating other people to have the same kind of mindset or curiosity to further engage our effort to push ourselves forward in this regard. So like, that's my meaning. That's where I get out of it. And I got that for myself. And the next day it could be jelly beans, you know, like it could be whatever I want it to be. Right. What a wonderful time. And what a wonderful opportunity it is to be able to choose your own meaning in life and not have it dictated to you.
And it changes. It changes as your lives go along. Yes. You don't have to pick one out in childhood and follow it forever.
Thank you.
You know,
the other thing to bring to this is that the perception that question is coming from is one of human viewpoint, of human exceptionalism, of human chosenness. I mean, they never ask what is the meaning of a chimpanzee's life. What is the meaning of an ant's life, or what is the meaning of a tapeworm's life?
Mm-hmm. Right.
They accept that those things do not have any extrinsic meaning.
Wait a second. Are you saying humans that made a human god for humanity might be biased towards humans? That's
yeah.
All the more reason to worship a spaghetti monster. Doubter 5, would you mind taking it? We'll come right back into it.
Sure. This is the digital what?
Ask ChatGPT that question.
Yeah, cool. This is the Digital Freethought Radio Hour in WOZO Radio, 103.9 LPFM right here in Knoxville, Tennessee. And we'll be right back after this short break. Hello, and welcome back to the second half of Digital Freethought Radio Hour. I'm Doubter 5, and we're on WOZO Radio 103.9 LPFM here in Knoxville, Tennessee. Let's take just a moment to talk about the Atheist Society of Knoxville. ASK was founded in 2002. We're in our 21st year, have over 1,000 members, and we have weekly in-person meetings every Tuesday evening in Knoxville's Old City at Barley's Tap Room and Pizzeria. Look for us inside at the high top table, or if it's pretty weather, outside on the deck. We also have a Tuesday evening Zoom meeting for those who don't like to get out or don't live in Knoxville. If you'd like to join us or email us for details at askanatheist@knoxvilleatheist.org or letschatse@gmail.com. You can find us online on Facebook, meetup.com, or at our website at knoxvilleatheist.org. By the way, if you don't live in Knoxville, you can still go to Meetup and do a search for an atheist group in your town. Don't find one, start one. That's right. Well, Matt, where do you want to pick up?
Guys, we have been asking ChatGPT, the latest AI craze on the internet, about what would be questions that would stump an atheist. And so we went over 3 of them so far. We got 2 more on the list. These are the top 5 questions that will stump an atheist. We haven't stumped an atheist yet, but we might with the next 2. Doubter 5, back on the hot seat. Question number 4, ChatGPT wants you to know, if there is no inherent morality, how do we determine what is right and wrong?
You mean apart from religion? Well, harm comes to my mind. Well, anything that harms you or your fellow man philosophically, financially, emotionally, physically, then those you shouldn't do. What do you need more than that? Matter of fact, we have whole libraries of books downtown here in Knoxville and every other major city in the world that were law books. They're laws that are made up by secular individuals without the input of religion. There you go, whole libraries of moral codes without a God.
John Richards, I want to throw this out at you too. If there's no inherent morality, how do we determine what is right and wrong?
Well, that's another begging question, isn't it? Because it's assuming that there is an absolute right or wrong.
It says
Right.
if there is no inherent morality. I don't think I see the assumption in this one. This one, I think,
Right there was the assumption, though.
Yeah.
I never,
there is
I
no-
never said that there was.
Where would an
And there's no
inherent
claim that there
reality
is.
come from?
Listen, here's the word specific.
There could absolutely
There
be
is-
inherent morality.
But if there is no inherent morality, is the premise of the question, which is not an assumption or an argument that there is one. So if there is no inherent morality, how do we determine what is right or wrong?
Well,
Well,
they
you
could have
can't
dropped the
define.
whole front part of that question. It's not pertinent to the answer.
Yeah, indeed, because what they're doing there is they're taking a concept which is in the conceptual realm, which we can conceive of because there's no limit to what we can conceive. I mean, I'm conceiving of Humpty Dumpty right now,
Yeah.
and they're taking this concept that there is a absolute right or wrong, and they're trying to apply it to the natural realm, where things happen, where time progresses, where events occur, and in that realm, no absolute rightness or wrongness exists. Everything is contingent. We respond to events and judge them on every instance how to respond, and what might be right one day may not the next. For example, I won't go out and murder somebody, but
Sure.
if a dying man in agony wants to be taken from his misery, I might help him.
So let me ask this then. Is there such a thing as inherent morality? And is that a point of umbrage? Like, would you guys argue that some atheists or anybody would argue, aside from religious, would argue that there is, in fact, such a thing called inherent morality?
Well, there you go, because inherent means hereditary tradition is looking back, as opposed to intrinsic, which means, found inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I would contend, yes, there is inherent morality because we have all these traditions and they're all different. I mean, in Islam, it's okay if a thief is caught to chop his hand off. I don't subscribe to that morality, and I hope you don't.
Lucifer, what do you have to throw into this? Let me truncate the question for you. How do you determine what is right or wrong?
Okay. Empathy would be one means, I suppose.
Okay.
Which is a lot of based off of, what you wouldn't want done to yourself. You don't want that done to other people just because we have to all work together as a community and everything. We're a tribal type species, and that's what it takes. People getting along. So, I mean, there's empathy, but that was actually my argument too for the inherent morality, is that there are studies and everything that trace empathy like at near birth.
Yeah.
That you're
And compassion for your fellow man.
So like that was kind of where I was going with the I never said that there wasn't, inherent morality because of that.
Right.
Yes.
So I can support that too. I would say like biology has given us, just through evolution, a way to process scenarios where we can benefit by certain actions and observe or model a clear lack of a benefit if we don't partake in a particular action. So like if we had a bunch of people who said, what would be great if we all pushed the person standing next to us off a cliff, well, that society may not last as long as ones who decide not to do that. And so evolutionarily, we might shift out the people who like to cause harm to those who are nearby them and inherently choose or through the system prefer those that cooperate and work well together. Now we have a society where we largely have people that don't want to stab each other, which is great. And for those who do, we have to come up with a system, because no true system that works on an evolutionary basis is designed perfectly. It's trial and error. So we have to come up with stopgaps when we have issues where things fall through the cracks. And we have to come up with punitive laws and make sure that there are justified measures and people who can be in charge of them, etc. A whole bunch of different stuff. So when I hear morality, I do think there is an inherent morality. I think that does exist. So I wouldn't argue that there is such a thing as no inherent morality. However, I think there's higher standards of morality that we can work together on. And that I also believe that morality is very much like science, where it's a system. It's not a list of rules. It's not a list of edicts. It's a process that we have to continue to work with and understand what the exceptions are and what do we do when the rules are actually broken. Not just declared this is a wrong thing, but now that the wrong thing's done, how do we resolve it? It's a whole system of consequences of actions and being aware of it, and what we can do to build a better society that, like Doubter 5 says, causes less needless harm, because that's always the thing that we're trying to get rid of, needless harm.
There's two sorts of definitions being used here. I think that what theists mean by inherent morality is something that is imposed from above and has fitted in with the doctrine that of their faith that they follow. Well, now, if you want to define inherent morality as adaptations that we have evolved in order to succeed as a species by behaving socially and cooperatively, right, that's different. And I accept that that's definitely the case.
So, my thing is, there's such a thing as like inherent counting. So like I can give my cat 2 hands. One has 3 treats, one has 1 treat, and he's going to go for the one with 3 treats because he knows that's more than the 1 treat. So there's like rudimentary counting or mathematics that animals can do where they understand values and they understand one has more than the other and stuff like that. But math, there are different standards for it. And so a person who's studied and understood calculus or like linear algebra is doing a more advanced, potentially more productive, potentially more helpful version of math than what they may inherently know when they're born as a kid. And so what I'm saying is we should aspire to that higher standards of morality that we can operate under or operate with. That way, we don't have to work on this subjective appreciation of each other and what our consequences imply on each other. We can instead say, here's the system that works. Here's a system that we've continued to improve upon. We don't have to worry about what our dictator says. This is the best way to do it. Let's work on this together, because it clearly has the best results if you just look at their standards of society.
Looking at this from an analogous to computing viewpoint, hardware chips come with some preloaded software. It's part of their architecture. It enables them to work the way they work.
BIOS. BIOS, right? Or yes, like, indeed. Yeah.
That's the word I'm seeking. Yes. And then subsequently, software is added to that. Now, we definitely come with preloaded software, which we've evolved over thousands, possibly millions of years, in order to be successful. And subsequently, and this is where I think the difference is, those of a particular faith preference, like Bible bashers, want to claim that they own morality, not this base level that we are preloaded with.
Right. Everyone, because they realize, hey, let's just if you repeat a lie enough times with enough confidence, then that becomes a new religion, essentially, right? So that's what they're trying to pursue. Doubter 5.
Dredd has come in. Let's pose him the question. Welcome, Dredd.
Doubter 5, welcome to the show. We have questions presented to us by ChatGPT, the AI of note on the internet. I asked him, please generate 5 detailed questions that would stump an atheist. We're currently on question number 4. There has been no stumping as of yet, but I do want to hear what you think on this idea, which is, if there is no inherent morality, how do we determine what is right and wrong? How would you feel that answer?
Well, I think I would go along with what you guys were saying, essentially that morality is, the sense of morality is something that's developed over time. And whereas morality used to be fixed with the idea of a creator, absolute morality, I think, is flawed, outdated. And certainly morality is developed in the secular world as a better response to the world that we actually live in.
Right.
As opposed to the ideal one that, that might be described in a Bible or something.
You know what's weird is absolute morality is almost demonstrably wrong if you just look at how the punitive measures are conducted even today. So like if I injure a person, I can burn a goat. It's like, okay, I'll keep that in mind. Where can I find a goat again? Ah, dang it. Okay, well, if I can't find a goat, let me just burn my 3 sheep. 1 cattle? And so it's just like people don't have that. And so who are the people that can be forgiven? Only the people who own land and property and livestock. And what about all the people who don't have it? Like this only works for a very segmented part of the world that even has those animals available to them and not for anybody else. It's a very weird system. And now we have a much more dangerous system where regardless of whatever you do, all you have to do is pray, think, to God and ask for forgiveness, and you will be forgiven. And it doesn't have any repercussions on the fact that you still have someone who may be injured or insulted or offended. You don't have to go out of your way to make apologies or amendments to them. You can just think in your head and feel good about yourself, which is a dangerous feedback loop, because it's not training you how to interact with society. It's only training you to feel good about the best friend that you think you have in your head that created the universe. That's a bad situation for more people to believe in.
Yeah, and I would say that anyone that would contend that morality should be absolute and based on what God's will is defeating themselves by virtue of the fact that in the Old Testament, burning animal sacrifices, that was a moral thing to do, and it is no longer. It can be agreed. I'm certain that nobody's doing animal sacrifices anymore, generally speaking. So if the morality of God can change, then it's not absolute by virtue of that fact. So, I think I would agree with everyone that the secular version of morality is the one that works, and it improves. It's like it's even like self-awareness. I mean, it's a scalable thing. Yeah. And as we grow and develop as a species, our understanding of ourselves and our place in the world increases and changes, and our morality has to slide along that scale in order to accommodate those changes.
What do you think, John?
I've lived long enough to see morality change.
Nice.
We used to, back in my young days in this country here, we used to be pretty severely homophobic, misogynistic. In fact, I watched a movie the other day about Alan Turing, who was a homosexual. And at that time, he was punished, demonized, and eventually committed suicide because society was strongly against that sort of lifestyle.
In spite of all his contributions.
Yes, indeed. Yes, it's shameful. But now, fortunately, we've moved and we're much less homophobic, much less misogynistic. We've improved. Our morality has got better.
Yeah. And the thing about what Dred was saying about the problem with basing it on God's word is the Bible theoretically, or the Quran, and that is interpreted 16 different ways by different sects and segments of religion. I mean, some of them still demonize homosexuality, because of what it says in the Bible. But some of them look at what Jesus said and say, no, we need to love our neighbor no matter what they do, but they still consider it a sin. So it's just, you can't. There's no definitive word when the Bible is basically a Rorschach test.
Yeah. Indeed. Can I bring an up-to-date on this? Because in Australia, there has been a large church called the Anglican Church. It's a branch of the C of E, the one that's based here. Mm-hmm. And recently it's become two. It's split because there's two factions now. The traditionalists don't want to marry gays, and the progressives are accepting the idea of marrying gays. Yeah. So the traditionalists hived off and formed a separate version of the. And
they both have scripture to back up how they believe about it.
Yes.
So I would say this as the model for Christianity is based on there are points to get you towards the good afterlife, and there's also points to get you to the bad afterlife. And if you don't have a concept of an afterlife, if you don't believe in hell, then everything that you do could be wrong, and you don't care because they're all points at the end of the day. Whereas if you're Christian, you have a very clear idea of wrong means sin, and that tends me to the bad place, whereas good means blessings, and I get to the good place. So like the idea of morality is like, are you with this system or not? Do you believe in an afterlife? Yes. Do you fear God? Do you believe in a God that loves you and wants to have a relationship with you? Yes. It's hand in hand with the two. And we as atheists can easily segment them and talk about secular morality and like these abstract ethics, like this empiricism, if you will. But that's not fundamentally how Christians see morality, because it's hand in hand with their belief system. I wonder. Go ahead.
Can I just respond to that?
Yeah.
It's all about being loyal to your tribe in a religion. That's the primary consideration. But it's interesting because the Pope has recently announced that he doesn't think homosexuality is a crime, but it is a sin.
Still a sin. Yeah.
Right. And I have problems with that still, because there's a lot of problems I got with the Pope either way, but like you point a finger, you got 4 pointing back at yourself, but it also like, anyway, didn't want to get too distracted. I want Lucifer to get a chance to get into this.
I love the name Lucifer.
I was wondering, is there a possibility now that if you were to bridge the gap between true empiricism and what a Christian believes morality is, and say, listen, maybe it's the role model that you're looking at, because when you have God telling you what's right and wrong, you might be doing a lot of wrong things that still lead to harm. Whereas if you look at the devil, if you look at Satan, here's an example of a guy who never gets offended. Like
skepticism versus faith.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, just look at this book and just pick a different role model that's also supernatural, who seems to be in better control of what they. My best story for why Satan is more moral than God is the story where Jesus is on a mount. He hicked up to the top of a mountain. The devil comes to him and he's like, hey, listen, if you worship me, you don't have to do this fasting thing that you're doing. I'll give you food and you can be worshiping all that stuff. Like, would that be happy? And Jesus is like, stay away from me, Satan. You'll never test me. And Satan's like, okay, so you don't want to worship me. That's fine. See you later. Doesn't harass him. There's no, I'm going to send you to the bad place. I'm going to spite you. It's all just super cool. I wish more gods or more beings in the Bible were like Satan. Like, why couldn't it just be a yes or no checkbox?
The noodly one is that way.
Yeah.
Yes, yeah.
You can get the 30-day God back here.
Well, like I said earlier, it's awfully funny that they have such they look at the devil in such a way whenever they love free will so much.
Right.
If it wasn't for him, he was the one going against God and created the other. So that's their free will, supposedly, that they have to choose between those things, or
10,000%. The Bible strikes me as if like Trump wrote a book about how awesome he was, and there was like a secretary in the back being like, I don't think you should push the bomb China button. And he's like, oh, I'm going to make you the bad guy in my book. And everyone's like, that guy was the bad guy. It's like, no, Trump's the bad guy. He's the bad guy throughout this. This is the book written by a jerk. You should know that. It's right up there. I'm going to go through one last question before we're done with the end of the show. This one's open to everybody. Actually, let's throw it up to Dredd, because you just got in here. Dredd, I got a question to you from ChatGPT. This is the last question, last opportunity to stump an atheist. Here we go. Question number 5. How do we account for the subjective experiences of love, beauty, and pleasure if there is no transcendent reality?
Well, we are our bodies. I mean, that's, I don't know. I don't even know if that's a valid question.
It fits the theme of today's show.
I've been staring at that question this whole time on the screen. Each time you see me looking, that's what I've been staring at and trying to figure out what a transcendent.
Right. And why does there have to be one? A transcendent reality.
I guess.
What is it even? Like, I'm trying to.
So here's the thing. Unlike you guys, my question would be for the first half of the question, which is, how do we account for subjective experiences subjectively? Right?
Yeah, so like, that's what I say. We are our bodies. I mean, how else
would you like me to would you like me to explain my subjective experience? Because it may not be the same as anyone else's, but I can try my best to explain it to you, because it's inherently my experience.
And it's one follows the other fallacy. I mean, show me that they would have a dependency on each other. I mean, or you're just assuming it.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correlation, not causation, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I like it. Yeah, post hoc ergo propter hoc.
John Richards, what do we got?
Well, all of these things, supernature, afterlife, transcendence.
Multiverse.
Multiverse simulation theory.
They're all undemonstrated. These are all fallacies, potentially, that are being used in an attempt to bolster up the first fallacy, that there is a God, the first error. So this is an ad hoc fallacy. This is saying, I can't justify my original claim, but here's another claim that supports it.
But here's the problem.
This is what it is. It's turtles all the way down.
Right. But here's my problem. We can account for our subjective experiences just by virtue of the fact that they are subjective and we are experiencing them. I don't like tautologies. I don't like tautologies, but it's like one of those things where it's like, explain to me, give me an opinionated answer about why you have opinions. I'm like, I'm going to give you my opinion on it. It's like, I don't like, it's like, you just literally asked me for a circle. You can't tell about my subjective experiences based on like the same prompt or maybe the same stimulation or situation that John Richards might have, because we're different people, different places in the world, and we will give you different answers. But if this is an open question where we can explain how we feel about things, I'll be happy to explain to you my ideas on love and thoughts and stuff like that. But just know that there's going to be no true objective answer because it's inherently my subjective experience. I don't need a transcendent reality to supplicate that or supplement that in any degree. Some people might feel like they do, but however, that doesn't demonstrate that that's actually a real thing, even if people point to it. Whereas for the things that I present, I would say you can, for the conditions of my subjective experience, you can test them, you can observe them, and I can, as an authority of the person having them, at least verify those things, and I'd be happy to clarify any of those points. Whereas someone who says, well, I know it's true because my transcendent God, it's like, well, that still doesn't prove that a transcendent God exists. That's just right now an opinion.
That's just a claim.
See, right, based on the same phenomena that I'm using to come up with conclusions.
I feel like those are two different, like how do you put those two things even in the same question? Because you're asking about some transcendent reality, not giving a definition of it, and then expecting the other person to fill that in for you. Like, it's so weird. And then you go, but like, how do we account for the subjective experience of love, beauty, and well, we can all agree that those things exist. Like, we're all, and if you want to get into the pleasure thing, I mean, there's plenty of kinks and things, you know. So I'd say that
my brain didn't even go there, but we
pretty well kind of we can prove those things in a way.
Yeah, it's like, how can we have pots of gold without leprechauns? You know.
Right. But from the Christian perspective, it's credence to demonstrate that their God exists. And in the way that is, and this is a devil's advocate, sorry, Lucifer, I know you hate that. But I was saying, if I have a feeling of love and my opinion is that that's coming to me from a transcendent reality, then that's proof that I can experience of that transcendent reality. And if other people who I believe in, other people who are my leaders, they say that this came from transcendent reality, I can assume that my feeling is the same as their feeling, which gives me even more credence that this source is a real source and not just something that atheists say doesn't exist, but is actually a thing that does exist that I'm experiencing on a regular basis. It's one of those weird reprogramming steps that happen when you become indoctrinated, where you don't have a way to assess the reasons why you believe things. So you believe other people who rewire you and basically say, hey, this correlation is now a causation. And that's going to be the credence for your evidence. It feels just as real as being angry at a spy balloon that may not necessarily be a spy balloon, or like
I mean,
or something that someone else tells you.
I also have to wonder, how do they account for subjective experiences whenever they claim that God controls all of these things?
Batter 5, what do you got?
I'm not sure I understand what he means by that.
Oh,
subjective. How can we have subjective experiences without God?
If that was from a Christian's perspective, that would be my question back to them: is how do they account for that, these subjective experiences of love, beauty, and pleasure, and all of that? Whenever they say that, well, I guess they'd go to free will, probably, huh?
Probably. I mean, there's all kinds of subjective experiences in the Bible, and that God exists in the Bible as well. I don't really say that they're dependent on each other, or not dependent.
Guys, great answers to all the questions on the show. We may ask ChatGPT to come up with some more detailed questions to stump us in the future.
We ought to figure out a way to get it on the show.
Guys,
next week I'll make a better effort to be here in the morning so I can give the benediction. But
no sweat.
I did actually question ChatGPT to come up with a Pastafarian psalm.
Nice.
And so I would like to share that next week with you guys.
Great. We're wrapping up. We're wrapping up for now. Lucifer, what's that YouTube channel?
Oh, I got the link up.
It's the Skeptical Satanist 8656.
Yep.
Nice. Very cool.
Skeptical Satanist?
The Skeptical Satanist,
Sweet.
8656. Dread Pirate
Okay.
Higgs, where can we find your stuff at?
I'm on YouTube at Mind Pirate, MIND and I live stream this at 7 a.m. PST on Sunday mornings, and then also try to join the Views on the News with John Richards at 11 a.m.
Hope you're going to join today. Yeah.
Not today?
I hope you're going to join today.
Oh, yeah, I'll be there.
Right. Right.
Yeah, we'll be with you. John Richards, where can we find your stuff at?
Freethought channel. It's all on there. I've been doing lots of 3-minute videos, and they cover much of what we've been talking about today.
Nice.
But here's an idea. I would like to, I don't know whether we can do this through a Facebook group or something, but I'd like to poll Christians, asking them, A, whether they believe in God, and B, whether they believe in the devil. And I'd like to find out if there's any difference, and if so, how much.
Interesting. Doubter 5, where can we find your stuff at?
Well, where do we find your stuff? You skip it over yourself.
You're probably watching it. I'm on Let's Chat. It's YouTube. What's up? Hey, everybody.
Okay. Well, my content can be found at digitalfreethought.com. My book, thank you, Jed, is What Atheism, What's It All About? Available on Amazon. Be sure when you go to digitalfreethought.com to click on the blog button for a radio show archives, atheist songs, and articles on the subject of atheism. Remember, everybody is going to somebody else's hell. The time to worry about it is when they prove that heavens and hells and souls are real. Until then, don't sweat it. Enjoy your life. And we'll see you next Wednesday night at 7 o'clock on WOZO Radio. Say bye, everybody.
Bye. Bye.